gets after it and builds on it, you know. We only see the complicated stuff. The easy thing is just shoot through it.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday, October the 4th convening of the Baltimore City Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals. Before we get underway, just a few house rules. First, if you have a pager, a cell phone, anything that plays any kind of audible electronic noise, anything that plays a ringtone, etc., we ask that at a minimum you please turn that to a vibrate only if off position. Additionally, to the extent that you need to have a conversation with someone, we ask that you please take that conversation out the double doors to your rear. And the reason for those rules are pretty simple and straightforward. First, you'll note that there are a number of microphones which are arrayed around us up here. And those microphones are all very sensitive. They're not only for the purpose of amplification, but they're also for the purpose of recording. And cell phones, conversations, and the like interrupt and interfere with that recording process. Additionally, those of you who are forward of the wall above you, if you turn around, you'll see 1, 2, 3 video cameras that are mounted on the wall up there behind you there, and there are 1, 2 video cameras mounted on the wall up here behind us. These proceedings are being videotaped and streamed live, I believe, on the city's cable access network, and also saved for broadcast on the city's cable access network and YouTube channel. Cell phones going off, pagers, conversations, and the like interrupt and interfere with that process as well as interfere with the general conduct of these proceedings. We will be voting at the end of the day, and you're certainly more than welcome to stick around and enjoy a civics lesson if you so choose. But if you've got other things to do on this lovely early fall afternoon, that's understandable, and you can call into the zoning board office in the morning and find out how we ruled on your case. If you take out pen and paper, I'll read the number off for the zoning board for you a couple of times. That number is 410-396-4301. Again, 410-396-4301. However, you will need to wait until you receive the formal written notice of the outcome of your case that should be forthcoming in about 3 to 4 weeks before you'll be able to get your permit. We ask that you please not build in the city of Baltimore without first obtaining all proper permits. If you haven't already done so, and if you are here in opposition to any case today, we ask that you please sign in on our sign-in sheet, which is being held up there by Mr. Henry. And the reason for that is also simple. We need to know who needs to receive those aforementioned written notices I just talked about. And there's no way that we can know who you are and where to send the notice unless we know who you are and where to find you. Additionally, the signing sheet allows us to know generally which cases have opposition, and also if your case gets postponed, and there's one case which is postponed today thus far, sometimes there are more as the cases go on, we need to let you know when those cases will be going forward, and for that we need to know again who you are and where we should send your notice. So please, if you're in opposition to any case today, please make sure that you've signed in on the signing sheet so that we know how to notify you. If you are the appellant, when the cases are called, you'll come forward and you'll stand to our left or your right. The opposition, if any, will stand to our right or your left. Once everyone is up here, we'll get you all sworn in, and we'll then proceed with hearing from the applicant will be given opportunity to tell the board what is involved in their appeal, introduce any documents and testimony they would like to offer in support of their case, and respond to any questions which the board may have. Once the applicant is done with their presentation, we'll then turn to the opposition, if any, who'll be given a similar opportunity to present any witnesses, documents, et cetera, in support of their arguments against the appeal. Once they have finished, we'll return back to the applicant, who'll be given the opportunity to respond to any points brought up by the opposition, and then to offer any closing statement. We won't be going back and forth, unnecessarily delaying things into the evening, because in case some of you may not have heard, there is a rather important baseball game that everyone wants to get to. So, hopefully we won't be going that long. So that's how the cases will go once they're called. We'll generally be calling cases in the order in which they appear on the docket. Once we first deal with some preliminary issues. First, as I mentioned, there is one case which is postponed today. That case is 2016-297, 3508 Wilkins Avenue. That case has been postponed until October the 18th. Next are the cases on our consent agenda. And the consent agenda consists of cases where the zoning board staff has reviewed these appeals and the board has determined that we have sufficient information on the record to approve these appeals on a consent basis. We'll call all of the consent cases together as a group. So as I read the cases off, please come forward and you'll stand in line. The first person will stand there in front of the microphone, and everyone else will line up in a row down the dais behind them. Once everyone's up here, we'll get you sworn in and as a group again, and then we'll call each case in turn, and you'll be given an opportunity at that point to offer any evidence you would like to have added to the record at that time. First case on the consent agenda is 2016-254, 1700 Jackson Street. Nate Prettle. After that will be 2016-292, 3701 Bank Street. Emily Sokolinski. Then will be 2016-299, 21 East Ostend Street. Brian Tranter. After that will be 2016-301, 1820 Jackson Street. James Horan. Then will be 2016-302, 4401 Ricerstown Road, Justin Williams. And 2016-303, 411 South Washington Street, Steve Carroll. Then will be 2016-305, 7001 through 7011 Hartford Road, Julie Arnold. And 2016-308, 16 North Bradford Street, Adam Carballo. 2016-309, 1200 through 1202 East Baltimore Street, and 1251 East Fayette Street, Ali Boga. In 2016-311, 601 North Caroline Street, Claire Liedquist. And finally, 2016-313, 300 through 308 North Charles Street, Caroline Hecker. Is that everyone? Okay. If you all can raise your right hands and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Okay, calling first case, 2016-254, 1700 Jackson Street, Nate Prettle.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Mr. Prettle. We have this as an application to construct a two-story rear addition with rear and rooftop decks at this location. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And Mr. Tiso, anything for the planning department?
No, sir.
All right. And Mr. Prettle, anything further you'd like to add it to the record at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, you've determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
All right. Next, 2016-292, 3701 Bank Street, Emily Sokolinski.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, ma'am. We have this as an application to use portion known as 3705 Bank Street for a recreation building. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And Mr. Tiso, anything on this case?
We have no objection.
All right. Ms. Sokolinsky, anything further you'd like to have added to the record this time?
No, thank you very much.
Okay. Zoning Board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Afternoon.
Next, 2016-299, 21 East Ostend Street, Brian Tranter.
Yes, good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir. We have this an application to construct a two-floor rear addition at this location. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Mr. Tiso, anything for the planning department?
No, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Tranter, anything further you'd like to have added to the record this time?
Not at this time.
Okay. Zoning Board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
All right, thank you.
Good luck. Next, 2016-301, 1820 Jackson Street, James Horan.
Yes, sir.
Afternoon, sir. We have this as an application to construct a two-story rear addition and rooftop deck at this location. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Tiso?
Nothing to add.
Okay, and Mr. Haran, anything further you'd like to add to the record at this time?
No, thank you.
Okay. Zoning Board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we determined there's sufficient information to approve the appeal.
Thank you.
Next, 2016-302, 4401 Ricerstown Road, Justin Williams.
Good afternoon, Justin Williams from Rosenberg Martin Greenberg. On behalf of the applicant, McDonald's Corporation, with me is Jeff Ceniro, the project engineer.
Afternoon, sirs. And Mr. Williams, we have this as an application to install an additional drive-through lane to an existing drive-in restaurant. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Tiso, anything for the planning department?
We recommend approval of the application subject to the condition that all improvements to the property are completed in accordance with the approved site plans that I've reviewed.
Okay. And Mr. Williams, is that condition acceptable to your client?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have anything you would like to add to the record?
Evidence for you.
All right. And anything further?
That's all.
Okay. Zoning Board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined there's sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thanks. Are you appearing also for
I
Ms.
am.
Hecker?
Yes.
Okay, let's get to that. 2016-313, 300 through 308 North Charles Street. Justin Williams.
Good afternoon again, Justin Williams from Rosenberg Martin Greenberg. On behalf of the applicant, MF Asset Management, Inc. With me today is Naomi Alfred, property manager.
Afternoon, ma'am. We have this an application to increase to 39 dwelling units. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and Mr. Tiso, anything for the planning department?
We recommend approval of the application be subject to the condition that any exterior alterations are completed in accordance with plans and designs approved by the Department of Planning.
Okay. And Mr. Williams, is that condition acceptable to your client?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. And anything further you would like to have added to the record this time?
Yes. Teamwork.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
That's all.
Okay. Zoning Board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined there's sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Good luck. Next, 2016-303, 411 South Washington Street, Steve Carroll.
Yes.
Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
We have this application to construct a second floor rear deck and rooftop deck at this location. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Mr. Tiso, anything for the planning department?
No, sir.
All right. And Mr. Carroll, anything further you would like to have added to the record?
No.
Okay. Zoning Board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Good luck. Next, 2016-305, 7001 through 7011 Hartford Road, Julie Arnold.
Yes.
Afternoon, ma'am. We have this as an application to install one telecom antenna onto a chimney with equipment onto a roof. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Tiso, anything for the planning department?
We recommend approval subject to the conditions outlined in our report.
All right. And Ms. Arnold, do you have a copy of that report?
I do.
Okay. And are those conditions acceptable to your client?
Yes.
Okay. Zoning Board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined there's sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Good luck. Next, 2016-308, 16 North Bradford Street, Adam Carballo.
Yes, sir.
Afternoon, sir. We have this as an application to construct a two-story rear addition with second floor rear deck at this location. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And Mr. Tiso, anything for the planning department?
Nothing to add.
All right. And Mr. Carballo, anything further to have added to the record?
Not at this time.
All right. Zoning Board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Good luck. Next, 2016-309, 1200 through 1202 East Baltimore Street and 1251 East Fayette Street, Ali Boga.
Yes, sir.
Afternoon, sir. We have this as an application to consolidate and subdivide lots to retain park with meeting house and construct new 6-story philanthropic rooming house with 55 rooming units and 59 parking spaces. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Tiso, anything for the planning board?
Yes, we recommend approval of the application be subject to the conditions that the Planning Commission approves the subdivision of the consolidated property and that all structural and site improvements are completed according to plans approved by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation and the Department of Planning.
Okay. And Mr. Boga, is that condition, are those conditions acceptable to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is there anything further you'd like to have added to the record this time?
No, sir.
All right. Zoning Board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there's sufficient information to approve your appeal. Good luck. And finally, 2016-311, 601 North Caroline Street, Claire Liedquist.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, ma'am. We have this as an application to construct 12 telecom antennas and equipment onto the rooftop of an outpatient center. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Mr. Tiso for the planning department?
And we recommend approval subject to the conditions outlined in our report.
All right. And Mrs. Lequist, do you have a copy of that report?
I do, yes.
All right. And are those conditions acceptable to you?
They are.
All right. And is there anything further you'd like to have added to the record this time?
No, thank you.
Okay. Zoning Board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we have determined that there is sufficient information to review your appeal.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay. Next, we will turn to the remainder of our docket, which will include, I guess, at least one case where opposition is signed in. And frequently we found opposition as a result of either a lack of communication or miscommunication amongst the parties. And it can be useful to offer the parties an opportunity to have a dialogue between themselves to see if they can resolve whatever differences that they may have. Obviously, if two opposing sides approach the board in a dispute and ask the board to resolve the problem, one of those two sides is bound to go away disappointed with the result. And this is your opportunity to avoid that unhappy fate. The one case where we have opposition which is signed in is 2016-280, 6103 through 6109 Bologna Avenue. All right, and it's Mr. Barry, and who signed in that case?
We've resolved the.
Oh, okay, great. Good to hear. All right. Then we'll carry on. 2016-202, 1819 West Lexington Street, Hal Arnold. Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
We have this as an application to use the premises as 3 dwelling units. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. If you can raise your right arm, or right hand rather, and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir. I do.
All right. And do we have staff reports?
Good afternoon, Eric Tiso for the Department of Planning. We understand that this case had been approved in this form in 2007. However, in the intervening time, conversions in the R7 and R8 zoning districts, and this property is in the R8 district, were shifted to require approval from the mayor and city council by way of an ordinance. And for that reason, we have to recommend disapproval of this appeal and recommend it to the city council for action.
Okay. Mr. Arnold, I guess the floor is yours.
Well, I understand the laws that have changed. The only thing that happened was the owner had a partner, and they were working together, and the partner had some financial difficulties, divorce, he dropped out, so he's worked hard to work up the finances to do the project. He just wants to reinstate it, and, you know, whatever the is required to get the mayor, city council, write letters, whatever the case may be. I guess if that's, you know, the case, but we just wanted the board maybe to have compassion with the owner. He's worked hard. He's went through some stress, you know, with, you have a partner that's dependent on it, and all of a sudden he backs out, and so it affects the project. And, you know, it took him 4 or 5, you know, it takes him, you know, a few years to actually get the financing. So it's up to the board to decide. If we have to do something with the mayor and city council, write letters and things like that, then we'll just, I'll get the information to follow whatever process procedures are required.
Okay, the way that, certainly I see it at this point, is that that the board really is without legal authority to grant the relief that's being requested. And I think that the only channel that can be accessed is by going to the council to have them approve it as an ordinance and then to be signed into law by the mayor. So if you would like, we can postpone the matter so that there's not an affirmative vote on it. Or if you would like the board to go ahead and vote on it.
We can do that, but then I have to find out exactly what the procedures is, so I can.
Well, I
How long
think,
does it, because usually does it take 90 days or takes, how long?
well,
does
it's
it
going to take a while.
Thing, yeah.
The best way to go about that, I would say, would be to contact it would probably be, Councilman Welch's office, although there'll be a new council person coming in. Which district is that? Nine. Okay. So you'll need to contact the council person for the 9th district and find out with their community liaison about getting an ordinance submitted. Of course, you'll have to get the council person's support for the project to go forward. And you may also want to seek some assistance with the planning department as well. But that would just be my sort of gratuitous advice. But at this point, I don't really see that there's much.
Is
that
it
the board can
postponed
do.
indefinitely, or do we have to?
Well, I think that you would you would postpone it pending
Until we-
addressing the matter with the councilperson's office. And if that route is successful, then this is moot at that point. But at least this way you don't have to deal with a denial from the board.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
All right, thanks. So 2016-202 is postponed. Next up, 2016-270, Sharuk Parasha.
Hello, my name is Charles Belfour, representing the owner who hasn't
Afternoon, Mr.
arrived.
Belfour. We have this as an application to convert the existing storage garage into 11 efficiency units. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. If you can raise your right hand, sir, and be sworn.
And do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, do we have staff reports?
We have one report from planning.
Our recommendation in this case is for disapproval since the number of dwelling units requested exceeds the amount that can be supported in this district. Given the property's location, especially in the center of a larger block, we would want the applicant to demonstrate to the board some valid reasons for why a variance for the lot area should be approved. Otherwise, we would have no objection to a lesser number of units that would comply with the bulk requirements for the district.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tizzo. Okay, Mr. Balfour.
May I request a postponement to avoid a denial to gather more information?
You
The
certainly may. You may also want to huddle together with the planning department and find out, I guess, talk with them about their stance and how you can get them on board with what you're proposing to do. Okay?
Thank you.
Sure.
I'd like also if you could call our office and we could discuss the parking. We had some questions about the parking arrangements.
Okay.
So it'd be good to get those answered before the next hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Balfour.
Normally mobile emails this.
And that's Mr. Tanner's card. There you go.
Thank you very much.
Okay, 2016-270 is postponed. Moving right along. 2016-280, 6103 through 05, and 6107 through 09 Bologna Avenue.
Surrounding you.
Now, Barry.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir. We have this as an application to consolidate the lots and increase to 24 dwelling units. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. If all those intending to give testimony can raise their right hands and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Do we have staff reports?
Yes, first we have a letter. I gather it's an agreement, something similar to an MOU between the Lake Evesham Community Association and the appellant. They basically touch on a few things: that the trash dumpster area should be enclosed, paved and screened, that there be new landscaping to consist of at least 50% native trees and shrubs, that the banner leasing flag on Bologna Avenue will be removed, that any new rental sign will be submitted to the association for review, that multiple student occupancy for more than 2 unrelated individuals will not be permitted, and that if additional parking needs are to be created in order to accommodate the additional tenants, a water retention garden will be planted to minimize runoff. The agreement has not yet been signed. And then we have planning's report.
In this case, since the property is going to be consolidated, we'd recommend approval of the application, subject to the condition that the Planning Commission approves multiple structures on a residential lot.
Okay. And Mr. Barry, is that condition acceptable to your client?
Well, we will accept it for the moment. We don't think that the planning department will ultimately require us to go to the planning commission for approval of 2 existing buildings on a lot. I've had discussions about that with Mr. French, who's not here today, so they haven't agreed one way or the other, but I'd like to think that they're existing buildings, there's no change being done. They will reconsider that, but at the moment, it'll be up to them to tell us that. If we have to go back, we have to go back.
Okay. All right. Why don't you tell us about what's being proposed?
Well, let me just give a brief history of this, which is an unusual case that brings us here. And I don't think any of the board members would have remembered this because it went back initially to 2008 when the board approved a conversion of 4 basement spaces into these 4 units.
I think actually I do remember it.
Okay. In 1967, the board actually approved the construction of 2 units, 12 units each, and they were subsequently built after a 2-year court fight that basically the board's decision was upheld, but the density was reduced to 10 units in each building. That was in '69, Court of Appeals decision. The owner, having plans already prepared and ready to go, decided to go ahead and build the 2 units, or the 2 buildings with the 20 units, and leaving the basement units as storage units or unused. In 1971, a new zoning code was adopted which changed the rules and which would have allowed 23 units by right, with the 24th unit requiring between a 2 and 3% variance based on how the difference of how the lot size is figured. In 2008, the current owner applied to the board to convert these 4 storage units into 4 units, and the board approved that. At the time, there was discussions with the Lake Evesham Association and the Bologna Giddings Association, 2 representatives with me today, and there were no conditions placed on it, but the owner, after I think getting 1 extension, decided to not go ahead with the conversion. The property is under contract to my client, who could not be here today because of the holiday, but we met with the representatives of the Lake Evesham Association last week, which formed the basis for the draft agreement that Mr. Henry referred to. Subsequently, Bologna Giddings representative had asked to add 1 condition, not to speak directly for Mrs. Moronic, but they were concerned about the loss of storage and whether that would lead to storage on the balconies or terraces. And so we have agreed to put in a additional condition in the agreement that no storage will be allowed on the balconies or storage for, I think, longer than 1 week. There may be temporary conditions, obviously, where somebody has to store stuff out there. So I let the two neighborhood representatives speak for themselves, but with that, we think the property's uniqueness, both in terms of its history and its actual configuration, merits the 2% variance that would be needed to allow the 24th unit. And we would have the agreement then signed this week, and you can make your approval, if you grant it, subject to that agreement, made part of your file.
Okay. Ma'am, your name is?
Yes, I'm Teresa Fenari. I'm the president of the Lake Evesham Community Association, which the apartments sit right in our neighborhood.
You spell your last name, ma'am?
Furnari. I'm not going to repeat what Mr. Berry said, but we feel confident that the neighborhood would not like to see any additional tenants because it is a residential neighborhood, and we've had a very nice relationship with the units that have been there. So we don't want to increase the density of that area. However, in meeting with Mr. Berry and Mr. The prospective new owner, we feel confident that our wishes will be honored. And what our concern is with the increased tenancy, we'll also bring more trash, we'll also bring more bulk trash. We were worried about some more screening. Right now, in the winter times, these units are pretty much, you can see right through from the houses to the units. So we talked about creating natural screening, which is why the shrubs with the native plants. And so our approach was to work with the owner, and we feel confident that with this agreement, as long as the zoning is approved on condition of the term of this agreement, and that we do add provisions in the agreement that they will in fact be, there's notice provisions, and if there is a breach of the agreement, that we can come back to the BMZA, or we can seek a civil action if necessary after a period of 60 days attempt to cure any breach. So with those provisions, we feel confident and would have no objection to this change. The only thing I would like to add, and I asked Mr. Berry, but I'd like to make sure it's on the record. Mr. Day, the former owner, we have not had as amicable a relationship as we would like, mostly regarding the trash and all. And I just want to make sure that this approval of increasing the tenancy is only for Mr. Berry and Mr. Katz. It's not for the previous owner. So it wouldn't be retroactive. Would that be accurate? What I'm saying is if the sale doesn't go forward, Mr. Day's still the owner, he then still doesn't have the right to have these additional 4 units. Is that, am I asking, am I making myself clear?
You are. I'm not sure if we can condition our approval that way, though.
Because our agreement is conditional upon a sale taking place.
Sure.
We don't have the same working relationship with Mr. Day because, maybe because he's selling a unit, he hasn't been made himself real available to us. So we don't want to have the same owner, but then have 4 more units when he hasn't been real successful with, the 20 units that he's managed.
Once the board approves, if they approve it,
Yes,
the applicant has 1 year to get a
Right.
permit.
of course.
So this would not go into effect until the permit is issued.
Right.
Along with the conditions.
Okay.
So it's not retroactive to the existing.
Because I understand that when it was approved a year, he never exercised that 1-year option.
That's why he's here.
No, this was the old owner.
Well,
That's why this
Oh,
issue
yeah, got
Yes.
it.
back in front of the board, because they never got the permit
Got it.
that they
Okay.
needed.
Okay, so it wouldn't be retroactive.
No, it would not be.
Thank you. Nancy?
Okay. Ma'am?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nancy Moronic. I'm immediate past president of Bologna Giddings Community Association, and I'm in
Spell your
charge
last
of
name, please, ma'am?
Moronic, Maronick. And I'm in charge of zoning issues in the community. And with the agreement to add to the agreement that Lake Evesham has worked out, we will not object to the plan to change those units or the storage to units. Our concern has been that this lack of storage would result in an unsightly mess on the balconies. But if provisions are in the agreement that will disallow that, then we're okay. We regret that there won't be storage for the tenants. We would like to see them have storage, but we won't object. And we had no objection to the joining of the properties to begin with. I do want to just mention one thing that I'm not sure comes under your control, but when I was sent the plans by the planning department, I could on my computer, I could look at them, but I was not able to print them out in a form that made them visible to anybody. And so therefore, I couldn't share them with my board members. And I feel that in order to come before this group, that the applicant should have to provide to the interested parties or affected parties copies, as I was provided when I spoke with Mr. Barry, and he offered to print a copy, present copies to me, which then I was able to share with other people. Anyway, I think that should be a requirement, that people should be able to read the plans and know exactly what's going on. And the writing was so tiny. I mean, just ridiculous. Thank you for your time, and I hope that there's some...
Just a comment that we understand we're making progress in the digital age to bring that into a more user-friendly process. The plans, it's only been online for like a year now, and we still have a lot to learn, but we are moving forward.
Also, I might add that I was not made aware of this hearing today. I was made aware of the first hearing, but not the rescheduled date. And only by accident did I find out at 11:15 today that there was going to be this hearing. So I think a little notice is in need of being looked at as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Berry, anything further?
So we would provide to the board an agreement by the end of this week. The prospective owner, I believe, is supposed to settle, is planning to schedule by Friday.
All right.
On the property. So we will add the additional consideration that Bologna Giddings requested and Lake Evesham is in support of, and we will get that to the board as part of your approval if you grant us the approval today. I hope you do, and be glad to go further if you have any questions.
All right. Thank you all. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next up, 2016-288, 3000 Parkside Drive, Mary Ward. Afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
All right, we have this an application to use a portion of the church for a 50-child daycare center. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. If all those intending to give testimony can please raise their right hands and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do we have staff reports?
Yes. First, we have a letter from the resident at 3018 Parkside Drive in opposition. They write, I am writing you to strongly oppose the zoning appeal proposed use of 3000 Parkside Drive as a daycare facility. I am the owner of 3018 Parkside Drive and have lived in the community with my wife since 2006. My home is located on the same block as the subject property of the appeal. My concern with the proposed use of the daycare facility is twofold: a certain increase in traffic to the street and a threat that the facility poses on the street's residential character. The 3000 block of Parkside Drive is already an unusually busy street, barely managing car traffic from numerous points. First, the Ray of Hope Baptist Church at the corner of Parkside and Harford Road is a commuter church, wherein the majority of parishioners attend services by car. This leads to a large amount of traffic during Sundays and on funerals, and at other times that the church holds an event. Church attendees' cars fill both sides of Parkside Drive during services, thereby slowing vehicular movement to a crawl. Second, Parkside Drive is a feeder street for commuters and staff from Morgan State University, just a few blocks west. Traffic increases during the school year, but is busy year-round on weekdays during the evening rush hour. Third, Northeast Police Headquarters is about a half a mile from my house. Police cruisers routinely race down the 3000 block of Parkside Drive at all hours of the day. Fourth, the most important is the upcoming demolition and reconstruction of the Harford Road Bridge, only 200 yards from my door. As Harford Road is a busy arterial road, the closure of Harford Road, of the bridge, would create a Carmageddon for the people in my neighborhood, turning the already insanely busy Parkside Drive into something truly unbearable. A daycare center will only exacerbate these problems. I am also opposed to the proposed daycare center as it will greatly reduce the residential character of the street. Right now, the 3000 block of Parkside Drive remains in an orderly appearance with no strange other indications, such as signs, etc., for non-residential use. And then we have planning's report.
For planning, while we generally recommend approval of the appeal, just as some side commentary, we do recognize that there is a small parking lot on the property, but given the recommended or requested capacity, that we would recommend one of a couple of options to perhaps alleviate some of the traffic concern, either approaching the parking authority to request a passenger loading zone on the street to help with that, or alternately, they may consider staggering some of the drop-off and pickup times so that there's not 50 clients arriving all at the same time. But with that, we would recommend approval.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Ward, I guess if you can tell us about what the plans are for the daycare center, and if also you can address some of these concerns about parking and traffic.
The daycare center was focus is to provide early child care and to also promote educational experience for the children. We're looking at children. We don't anticipate having 50 kids all at one time. This is a beginning stage, so we're looking at probably starting off with new clients, and we can't predict the number, but I'm quite sure it's not going to be 50 in the first year that we start. But we do have 21 parking spaces on the parking lot. We could look at asking the parents to park on the parking lot so they will not inhibit traffic on the street. And they can drop the kid. They have to come inside to sign the kids in. And we could also stagger the arrival and departure time of the children so there would not be a conflict within the community. So we're willing to work with the traffic issues and try to resolve them as, quickly and as agreeable as we can, so they would not impact anyone.
Okay. And the parking lot that's available,
It's on the side of the street.
I'm seeing that this is the church here at the corner, and then adjacent to that is a property, and then there's this L-shaped
And that's the
parking lot. Okay, so that's all the church's parking.
Yes, it's 21 spaces.
Okay.
And
And is that accessible Can't quite tell if it's accessible from,
It's only accessible one way. You have to drive in through.
okay, so you drive in through this wider portion right here next to the church?
Yes, you drive in through that area.
Okay. All right. And how many of those spaces would be available for,
During the weekday, the daycare is operating Monday through Friday, so during the weekday from 7 to 6:30, the parking spaces should all be available.
okay,
We will not have, we would not conflict with the church services. So they could park on the street in front of the church because there is a little park area there, as well as on the parking lot. And realistically speaking, all the parents are not going to drop the kids off at the same time, so it's going to be a continuous cycle for a period of about an hour in the morning, and then same thing in the afternoon.
certainly. What are the hours going to be?
The hours will be from 7 to 6:30.
Okay. And how about if there are services during the week, if there's a funeral, say, or something like that? How would you deal with that?
We will have to make concessions for the parents in regards to the kids being picked up. This funeral services usually doesn't start until about 10 to 11 o'clock. So the
Okay.
kids would already be into the daycare prior to the service starting. And the funeral services usually ends about 2, 3, depending on the traffic, and then they usually have a repass. But still, it would be not impacting the departure of the children.
Okay. All right. Any further questions?
No.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, 2016-294, 1800 North Smallwood Street, Hal Arnold. Okay. All right, Mr. Arnold, you're already sworn, but ma'am, if you can raise your right hand and be sworn in, please. I guess if everyone, whoever is going to be testifying, can raise their hands and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
All right. And Mr. Arnold, we have this as an application to use the rear portion of the first floor as a beauty shop in conjunction with the existing 2 dwelling units and office space. Is that correct? Okay. Do you have staff reports?
One report from planning. We understand that this portion of the building had been previously approved for use as a non-conforming use, and we recommend approval if the non-conforming use of the premises has not been discontinued or abandoned.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Arnold, why don't you tell us about what's being proposed here, and if you can also address the past use of the property and the issue of potential abandonment raised by the planning department.
Well, the property is zoned as a mixed-use property, and the non-conforming use, it was gonna be an office. So basically, I don't see any indication of it not, of anything happening like that, but the bottom line is they want to still use it as, as a mixed use, because they have the residential units upstairs and they want to put the beauty shop in. So she can explain exactly how this works. I just basically did it, layout, and submitted the application. So hopefully with the, it's not like we're going out of the zoning condition as far as, mixed use, which means we can have a non-conforming commercial unit downstairs, which would be the beauty shop, and then we'll have the residential units upstairs as it should be, in accordance with the zoning.
Okay. What's in there now?
It was gonna be an office, but they never really got a permit. So
Okay. Do you know, so at one point, I guess the owner wanted to turn it into office space? Okay. Do you know when that was?
no,
And do you know what it was before it was office space?
it was just well, basically the upstairs is residential. It wasn't even
Yeah, I guess that it's a first floor commercial space, and then with residences that are above it.
Yeah,
I'm
they
just
got the
trying to
doors on the
figure out.
side where you just walk up the steps, but then this was just on the first floor, you know.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure out, as to this particular space on the first floor, you know, what's in there now, what was in there before. And you said that there's, I guess that it previously was outfitted for office space, but you don't know what was in there prior to that.
No, it probably was just like storage. She
Ma'am?
It wasn't anything in there. It was like, it was vacant
Okay.
and vacant, you know, in the back and needed some, you know, fixing up or whatever to be done. But it wasn't, you know, as long as I known of it, wasn't anything there.
Okay. And your name, ma'am?
My name's Geneva Brown.
Okay. Can you spell that first name?
Geneva.
Okay. And Ms. Brown, you're the, you intend to operate it?
Yes.
Okay, and that's the, I guess we've got the drawing here of this, of the proposed salon.
It, four stations.
Okay.
Maybe four is enough from, with the measurements and, you know, everything that I plan to do. It could be 4 stations in there, 4 dryers, 2 wash bowls, enough, sitting space for like six people maybe waiting, and then 4 in the, you know, like
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
in a restroom.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. You too.
Look for your Oreos too. You can make it to Toronto after the hearing?
No, not me. I'll be going to a television.
You have to have a passport to go to Canada. Right.
Yes. Well, it's Canada, so, well, I guess you still need one. Yeah, we still do. All right. 2016-298, 1835 Walbrook Avenue, James Cusack.
Hello.
Afternoon, sir. All right. You're Mr. Cusack?
Yes.
All right, and sir, we have this as an application to use the first floor front as a barber shop. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If all those giving testimony can raise their right hands and be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Do we have staff reports?
We have one report from planning.
We have no objection to the appeal, provided that the non-conforming use of the property has not been discontinued or abandoned.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Cusack, tell us about what you're proposing here.
Okay, what we propose is, not too much of what it used to be, but it's, kid-themed barbershop. Neighborhood full of a lot of kids, so this barbershop is designed for boys 12 and under.
Okay.
And, we plan to pretty much do the same thing as the previous owner did. You know, she was a beauty salon, and we're doing, kids and, you know, little girls and boys, so.
All right. And what's in the, do you know what's in the space right now?
Yes, we did a little re-renovating, like chairs and seating, paint, put a new floor down.
Okay.
Pretty much made it look kid friendly.
Okay, so you started redoing the space?
Yes.
Okay. And what was in there, I guess, before you started redoing the space, what was in there?
It was dressed as a beauty salon.
Okay. Do you know when the beauty salon had last operated?
I think about a year, because the lady passed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's been there like over, I think it said 69, since 69.
Oh, well, okay.
She's been a beautician ever since.
questions? Thanks, John. That's it. All right. Gonna take a quick 5-minute break. Okay. Go back on the record.
We don't have a reporter.
No, we won't.
But since they don't,
Sure, it's just a switch to flip. I can do that.
that's why the lot's probably been undeveloped forever. You know, we've seen a lot of these properties that are remnants that are now valuable enough that people will try them, or in some cases even subdivide them. Oh well, yeah, but we've seen some stuff. Calling me 500 because they not
It's funny.
building. There's some dirty stuff in the soil that townhouse because they had to do the layer structure garage with concrete, which is it destroys the budget right there. Not that I'm necessarily sad to see that happen.
We're doing 25. We're getting through a number of days. 3 or 4 days of the due date. Yeah, 3 days. Not having work today. All right. Let's get some.
It's just approved at the last meeting. Okay, ready? All right. Calling 2016-306, 1151 through 55 Gorsuch Avenue, Leon Bridges. Afternoon, sir. All right, you Mr. Bridges?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and sir, we have this an application to construct a 2-story, single-family detached dwelling at this location. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. If you can raise your right hand to be sworn, please, sir.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, so we have staff reports.
We have nothing.
Okay. All right, and Mr. Bridges, why don't you tell us about what's being proposed here?
The lot is a very difficult lot on which to build. It is grossly overgrown and is really a detriment to the community with the overgrown site and perhaps rats in the area. The owner would like to construct this house, and I'm an architect and can guarantee the city that this is going to be a very delightful designed cottage.
Okay.
The issues are lot size and setbacks.
Right.
I see from the drawing that the property is somewhat irregularly shaped. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
It's sort of triangular.
Robot, yeah.
And looks like the structure is going to follow that same shape. Well, it's going to have a similar shape as the property.
Yes, sir. If you'd like, I can leave these with you.
I've got this here. Is that
You
the same?
have that, but you don't have the other two drawings,
Okay.
which are the proposed plans.
Okay. the snag is. So, in this district, minimum lot area for a single-family detached dwelling is 5,000 square feet.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know exactly how much this one has, but it looks like 24. So 2,324 square feet. And though the board can grant a variance, the reduction that you would need for this would be 53.5%, thereby exceeding the board's authority by more than 25%. That might be why the property has gone undeveloped for so long.
There is a provision in the code that I'm trying to find here.
Unusable
Talks about
lots.
Lots that predated the 71 code. Bear with me a second here. Under section 3-306, pre-existing uses, structures, and lots. This subsection states that on a lot of record that was established before April 20th, 1971, a single-family dwelling may be established regardless of the minimum lot area requirements imposed by this article, as long as all the other requirements of the article are met. So the fact that the lot is not 5,000 square feet can be overcome, but he still needs the variances that he needs for side yard setback. Which basically he's seeking a 50% reduction on either side. Instead of 10 foot, he's asking for 4 foot 9 inches on both sides. Did we calculate lot coverage? Another unique factor is that this property on paper shows a 15-foot alley that runs adjacent to the side property line between 1157 and 1155, but that's on paper only. The alley does not exist. So there's really no access to the rear for parking.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Next, 2016-307, 410 through 412 Conkling Street, Kevin Bernhardt. Afternoon, sir. You Mr. Bernhardt?
Yes, sir.
All right, and Mr. Bernhardt, we have this as an application to use the entire premises for 2 dwelling units, with 1 dwelling unit on the first floor and the second dwelling unit on the second floor. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. If you can raise your right hand, sir, and be sworn.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
We have staff reports.
We have one from planning.
We have no objection.
Succinct. All right, Mr. Bernhardt, why don't you tell us about what's being proposed here?
Sure. So as you mentioned, it's going to, the plan is to do 2 dwelling units, 1 on the first floor, 1 on the second floor. I currently live in Highlandtown, and I'll be occupying the first floor apartment. And then there's a local artist, because we're in the Highlandtown Arts and Entertainment District, that'll be using the second as his dwelling. I also have 5 letters of support from the community associations and elected officials. Got more copies if you need them.
Okay. What's in the space currently?
So the previous property owner had actually put a residential unit on the second floor. I'm trying to make that legal now. And the first floor was vacant.
Okay. Do you know what had previously been on the first floor?
Apparently back in the 80s, it was a tavern and bowling alley.
And bowling alley.
Interesting combination.
That's the last recorded use that I know of. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what the little green card said at the permit office. I don't know.
Those are really popular these days.
Any questions?
No?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Called Mustang Alley.
Yeah.
It seems to be popular.
Tavern and bar.
All right, and last we have 2016-310, 3600 through 3602 Hickory Avenue. Peter Kapczynski.
Yes, sir, that is correct. Nice pronunciation.
All right, sir, we have this application to add live entertainment to a restaurant known as 3602 Hickory Avenue. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you can raise your right hand and swear, please, sir.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
We have staff reports.
Yes, first we have a letter of support from the Hampden Village Merchants Association. The general membership of the Hampden Village Merchants Association, on behalf of its entire membership and the business community of the Greater Hampden area, supports 3602 Hickory Avenue in acquiring a live entertainment license. This location has long stood previously as an entertainment hall, complete with historic decades-old staging built inside. It is our feeling that the addition of live entertainment to this establishment brings back a much-needed venue for entertainment and does so in a way that is consistent with the history of this business's location. I have a report.
And we recommend approval, if granted, be subject to the 3 conditions as outlined in our staff report.
Okay. All right, Mr. Kopczynski, do you have a copy of the staff report from planning?
Yes, sir.
Just going to ask if you accepted the conditions offered by the planning department.
Yeah, just make sure you keep all the copies of your stuff on premise. So you're saying yes? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, and why don't you tell us about what is being proposed here?
This property was built in 1920. Like the gentleman said, there has been a stage in there since then, and I would just like to use the stage again for limited live entertainment, comedy, and a DJ.
Okay.
On the request. Or wait a minute.
We also have a letter of support from the Hamden Community Council. They didn't have time to actually get it to you, but I have an email copy of the report they sent us.
That'll be useful.
So that would be just on the first floor?
Yes, sir.
If you're familiar with the area, it's the old Redmond's Hall. It was built, like I said, back in the 20s. It used to have about 500 or 600 members.
There it is.
It's in there in my youth.
Used to be a movie theater in there too, apparently.
Yeah, you mentioned in your application burlesque. Can you define what you mean by that word?
Well, it's definitely, it's very tasteful. There is no nudity whatsoever. It's just a single performer.
There would be no adult entertainment.
No, sir, absolutely not.
Okay, looks like it's, you're proposing this for Friday and Saturday nights?
Yes, sir, the entertainment would be on the weekends.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and we're off the record. Okay. Which one do we want to talk about?
Only had 294 and 306 circled on my list.
I've got 294 circled.
I was on 294, I just wasn't clear on the abandonment issue. I didn't.
Yeah.
Testimony wasn't clear to me on that issue.
Well, I think my problem was I thought there was some statements of extended abandonment. Some testimony of extended abandonment.
Yeah. I had 294 and 306, I guess, and 307. But on 94, I think I shared your concern there, Frank, is that I thought that there was, that testimony indicated that there was an extended period of abandonment. You think that it was a little bit less clear on that, Marty?
No, I guess maybe I'm not stating it clearly. I didn't hear testimony to make it clear that there was not a long period of abandonment.
Gotcha.
That's what I meant to say, really.
Yeah, and just by way of contrast, with 298, I think that the testimony is pretty clear that when the prior use had ceased.
Right.
And, it was within a year, and he related it to certain things, I guess to the passing of the prior owner.
Yeah, I agree with you.
On 306, David?
Yeah.
And looking at that section, also, I guess 306, it says, yeah, I guess the end of that says, as long as all other requirements of this article are met.
Yeah, that's ambiguous.
Well, yeah, the question I had is, under the code, if we grant, was it side yard variances here? Does that mean everything is met, since we have the authority to
Well,
grant?
that's the way we've interpreted that in the past.
Mhm.
Because on these lots that are smaller than what the code allows, it's almost impossible to meet all the other bulk regulations without a variance. But if you get the variance, you're still in compliance with what the code says. That's the way we interpreted that in the past, but it's not very well written, of course.
Not sure I agree with that interpretation, but it's creative.
Yeah.
And that was in
I think the intent was to allow for the development of unimproved lots. But
Otherwise, having you put a
Right,
dwelling
it's
in an
unimprovable.
R7.
Right, you'd never be able to build
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, for anything.
Oh, if they purchased that alley next to it, probably you could.
I
The
think the
alley
next-
that doesn't exist.
Well, and I think the next door neighbor built a garage in that alley, if you look at the.
Yeah.
pictorial.
Yeah, yeah.
What, right away?
Oh, and then Conkling Street. 307.
I didn't have a problem with that.
I was okay with it.
You didn't like the pool table in the front?
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah, I was okay with that one.
No, that one was, there's a pool table in the front?
Pretty drawings.
Oh, I didn't check that.
I didn't notice either.
So there is. It's always important to make sure that you've got those measurements correctly, otherwise standing there with the pool cue angled around. Because there he said that the tavern hadn't been used since, I guess that there was no legal use in there since the 80s. Did I say okay? No. Well, actually, no, because you can, all right, that's not a conversion. All right, so we can do, that's conversion board approval. That's easy enough. Okay. All right, that's easy enough. Groovy. All right. Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. 2016-202, 1819 West Lexington Street was postponed. 2016-254, 1700 Jackson Street was by consent. 2016-270, 124 through 132 East Trenton Street was postponed. 2016-280, 6103 through 6109 Bologna Avenue. I'm a yes, incorporating the agreement among the parties.
Yes.
Yes, with the
Yes.
MOU.
2016-288, 3000 Parkside Drive. I'm a yes.
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 Agreed.
Yes. 2016-292, 3701 Bank Street was by consent. 2016-294, 1800 North Smallwood Street. I'm a yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes. I didn't hear testimony on getting over the abandonment, so I'm a no.
2016-297, 3508 Wilkins Avenue was postponed. 2016-298, 1835 Walbrook Avenue. I'm a yes.
Yes.
2000.
Yes.
Yes. Agreed.
2016-299, 21 East Ostend Street was by consent. 2016-301, 1820 Jackson Street was by consent. 2016-302, 4401 Reisterstown Road was by consent with planning department conditions. 2016-303, 411 South Washington Street was by consent. 2016-305, 7001 through 7011 Hartford Road was by consent with planning department conditions. 2016-306, 1151 through 1155 Gorsuch Avenue. I'm a no.
Yes.
Yes.
I was no. I'm a no as well.
2016-307, 410 through 412 South Conkling Street. I'm a yes.
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 Yes. Agreed.
2016-308, 16 North Bradford Street is by consent. 2016-309, 1200 through 1202 East Baltimore Street and 1251 East Fayette Street was by consent. Planning department conditions. 2016-310, 3600 through 3602 Hickory Avenue. I'm a yes with planning department conditions.
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed.
2016-311, 601 North Caroline Street was by consent. Planning department conditions. 2016-313, 300 through 308 North Charles Street was by consent. Planning department conditions.
Can we revisit 306 just for a second?
Sure.
I think if we don't, the ruling that we have right now doesn't give the landowner the ability to do anything with their land. And I think that that one provision in the code that David pointed us to is there to prevent the lack of ability to build on your own land.
My problem.
They can sell it.
Well, you can sell it. I mean,
Well, who's gonna buy it?
Yeah, I've got
You
a
can't-
buildable lot.
you
on-
can't improve it.
A non-buildable lot on the Eastern Shore. You can't do
You
anything
can't
with it.
sell it.
You can sell it to the next door neighbor for, to expand their yard, and that's about it.
So you've got one potential buyer ever? I think that's pretty restrictive.
My take on it was that that under I guess there's two things. First, I don't know that the property has always been zoned, what is it, R7? So I don't know that when the code was passed, it qualified under this section. But the language there says, as long as all other requirements of this article are met. And I hear you about, well, you know, if they comply with the variance, then they're complying. It's like, no, variances actually are approvals of non-compliance or relief from strict compliance with the code. So I don't think that language is applicable. Now, there is that one, I guess there's that other one.
What's your book?
15.
The variance section.
Yes. Why can't I find that all of a sudden? There it is. 15 to 14. The board, mayor, and city council, as the case may be, may authorize any other variance from the terms of this article if, in addition to all other findings required by this title, it finds, as a matter of fact, that the lot cannot be reasonably used for any of the permitted or conditional uses set forth for the zoning district in which it is located. 2, the use or bulk regulations applicable to the lot have the effect of depriving the owner of all reasonable use of the lot. And 3, variance is necessary to avoid arbitrariness. I think that is a better fit for this circumstance. I don't know that there's no use for. I don't know that there are no uses that can be made of this property, though. I know that for a single-family detached structure, that it does not qualify because it doesn't have enough square footage. I do not know that it cannot be used for any purpose. It can't be used for the one that is being sought, but I don't know that it cannot be used for any purpose. So that's why I was in there.
Yeah, I just disagree with your reading of 3-306. I think, Jay, you probably on the same page as I am.
For the part about all other requirements of the article being
Yeah,
met?
because I don't read that as necessarily approvability. As I read that is you've satisfied the requirements of the article. So if you have a variance is one of the things that you can satisfy, by us granting it. And I think that satisfies the latter part of D2.
Right. If you needed a variance that we didn't have the authority to grant, then I would share your interpretation, but it's within our authority.
The other comment that I have is this property has been R7 since 1971.
Okay.
And the only other use that would be allowed under the zoning code is a conditional use. And the requirements for conditional use for lot size are the same as a single family. So a conditional use would have the same problem as the single family request, detached request. And you can't build a semi-detached because you can't connect to the building next door because it's set back from the property line. So it is a pretty unusual situation. We don't get this very often in front of the board, but.
Was there ever a structure on that land, on that lot? Was there ever a structure?
Not to my knowledge. It appears, and this is just guesswork on my part, from the photograph, there's a cross on the lot with a garden.
I saw that.
And I think that may have been associated with the church. That maybe at one time they owned the land, they used it for a garden. But I have no evidence to support
That's
that.
the garage that's in there, in that paper street.
As another observation, if this
Just
is not all
build it.
helpful, was looking, and I hadn't previewed this case, so I'm looking at this with fresh eyes. The design they have is set 10 feet from the front. If they were to comply with a 20-foot setback in the front, with 25 in the back, and 10 on each side, the result would be a home of less than 10 feet in width, and we have a minimum requirement of 16 feet. So I believe that puts it in the unbuildable category unless we read it to allow the possibility for variances.
Okay.
The only caveat to that is the front properties on either side are right up on the property line.
Yeah.
Delightful cottage.
Okay. Now, I think that, Eric, actually, I still don't think that it's 3306. I think that it's under 15214. Given the dimensions that we were just talking about,
Yeah, I agree.
that once you comply with all of those requirements, you essentially are down to pretty much nothing.
Impossibility, yeah.
That's right.
So are you swayed at all?
So on that basis, yes, I think that it fits under 15214.
So we're changing you to a yes?
Yes.
Do we need another yes? Were you,
Yes, we
you
would.
were both
Yeah, you
no's,
just-
right?
Yes.
You still need help.
We need at least two more yeses.
Well, we've got
Need
three
one more
yeses
yes.
now, we need one more.
I think, like I said, I think that if you look at 15214, I think that's the kind of situation that this is in. Because I think that it is irregularly shaped, so there is a uniqueness about it, particularly when you start looking at the side setback requirements. Additionally, with having that alley that runs alongside of it, it makes it triangular in shape. Well, it's an alley that's not really useful for anything, which feeds into the need for
Right, 'cause they
parking
can't build on
variance
it.
as well. So I think that that makes it unique. There clearly is a hardship here because if they were to strictly comply with all of the various setback requirements, then you wind up with basically a structure that's about 10 feet in width. I don't think that that's functionally usable for anything. And so at that point, I think that you can get in, and I think that that would have the effect of depriving the owner of all reasonable use of the lot.
I'm okay with that.
All right, make it unanimous.
There you go.
Good job.
It just didn't sit well with me.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Wow, 314.
I know, that's unheard of.
I'm sorry, I have one other thing. This is a request from the Office of the Controller for November 29th hearing. They're requesting the board to take off that day.
Was that the day without pay?
No.
Oh.
No, it says, no, it's not that. It says that there's no Board of Estimates meeting that week, and rescheduling your BMZA meeting would give our hardworking security team a much-needed break. This is only a request, and if you're unable to comply, your meeting can continue. Well, we don't have anything scheduled. It's a 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock docket. We don't have anything scheduled for 3 o'clock. We have one case on the 5 o'clock, which we would have to reschedule to honor their request. But And I think things have slowed down somewhat, that we could take a day off if it's okay. And the only problem is that the one on the 5 o'clock docket has got a lot of opposition, and we're gonna have to be diplomatic in dealing with rescheduling that.
Well, that's where you work your magic, right?
Do you have unforeseen facility closures?
Yeah, I would refer them to the controller's office, make her deal with it.
But, I mean, I always like to try to honor, they're gracious
I agree
enough
with
to
you.
let us use this space,
Certainly.
Yeah, it's fine.
so, okay, thank you.
Eric, have you heard anything about that alley that's so near and dear to my heart in the back of Lombard Street?
I have long since given up.
All right, all.
Ever.
Insanity, I mean, it really is.
Yes.